I'm Megan, 34, and the day my daughter Lily turned 10 should have been magical. For months, I saved every spare dollar to throw her the perfect birthday celebration. My parents, sister Kimberly, and brother Andrew all promised they'd be there. As the party time came and went, their seats remained empty, leaving Lily watching the door with increasingly sad eyes. But the real shock came 2 weeks later, when Kimberly called demanding $1,850 for our parents' anniversary gift. When I refused, citing their absence at Lily's party, I never expected police officers to show up at my door. Before I dive into this painful story, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever had to stand up to family who took you for granted. Life as a single mom has never been easy, but being Lily's mother is the greatest joy I've ever known. For the past 8 years, I've worked as an administrative assistant at a local insurance company. The pay isn't amazing, but it keeps a roof over our heads and food on the table. My schedule allows me to drop Lily off at school in the mornings and pick her up most afternoons, which I'm eternally grateful for. Those car rides, filled with her chatter about friends and classroom adventures, are the highlight of my days. When Lily started talking about her 10th birthday 6 months in advance, I knew this milestone meant the world to her. "Double digits, Mom," she kept saying, her blue eyes wide with excitement. It's kind of a big deal, and she was right. After everything we'd been through together, she deserved a celebration to remember. My family background is complicated. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, while my younger siblings, Kimberly and Andrew, seemed to get away with everything. Our parents, Patricia and Thomas, had different expectations for each of us. I was expected to excel in school, help around the house, and never cause problems. Meanwhile, Kimberly's emotional outbursts were labeled as artistic sensitivity, and Andrew's academic struggles were met with expensive tutors and endless patience. This pattern continued into adulthood. When Kimberly decided to quit her job to find herself at 27, our parents supported her financially for nearly 2 years. When Andrew needed a down payment for a house, they gave him $15,000 as a gift. But when I became pregnant with Lily at 24 and her father disappeared from the picture, their support came with endless lectures and constant reminders of my poor choices. They helped occasionally with babysitting when Lily was younger, but each favor came with strings attached. Despite this complicated dynamic, Lily adored her grandparents and her aunt and uncle. They showered her with gifts on Christmas, though they often missed her birthday celebrations due to various emergencies or scheduling conflicts. This year was supposed to be different. When I mentioned Lily's upcoming 10th birthday at our monthly family dinner in January, everyone immediately promised to attend. "Of course we'll be there for our granddaughter's big day," my mother Patricia said, patting Lily's hand across the dinner table. "10 is special. Count me in," Andrew added, ruffling Lily's hair. "I might even have a surprise for the birthday girl." Kimberly nodded enthusiastically. "We wouldn't miss it. I'll help with decorations if you need." Those promises meant everything to Lily. For weeks afterward, she talked about how excited she was that everyone would be coming. "This is going to be the best birthday ever, Mom," she told me repeatedly. I started planning immediately, setting aside a small portion from each paycheck into a special birthday fund. By April, I'd managed to save $475 specifically for her party, a significant amount on my budget. I decided on a space and galaxy theme, as Lily had recently developed a fascination with astronomy after a school field trip to the planetarium. The party preparations consumed my evenings and weekends. I found affordable galaxy-patterned fabric online and sewed cosmic-themed tablecloths and backdrop curtains. I spent hours making papier-mâché planets to hang from our living room ceiling. I found constellation cookie cutters at a thrift store and practiced baking star-shaped sugar cookies until I got them just right. 3 weeks before the party, I sent formal invitations to everyone, including my family, though they'd already verbally committed months earlier. I invited 12 of Lily's classmates and 5 children from our apartment complex. I confirmed the order for a special galaxy-themed cake from a local bakery that was slightly over budget but worth every penny for the look I knew would appear on Lily's face. As the date approached, I sent reminder texts to my family members. All confirmed again. "Looking forward to it," texted my father. "Got the date on my calendar," replied Andrew. Got Lily the cutest gift, wrote Kimberly. The night before the party, I stayed up until 3 a.m., finalizing decorations, assembling goodie bags, and transforming our modest apartment into an intergalactic wonderland. I hung twinkling lights to mimic stars and used black light to make the constellation patterns I'd painted on the walls glow. I inflated dozens of dark blue and purple balloons, attaching glow-in-the-dark stars to their strings. Every detail was perfect. As I finally collapsed into bed in the early morning hours, exhausted but satisfied, I imagined Lily's face when she woke up to see the transformation. More importantly, I pictured her joy when she'd be surrounded by her family and friends, feeling special and celebrated as every child deserves on their birthday. Despite my exhaustion, I fell asleep with a smile, excited for the day ahead. I woke up early on the morning of Lily's birthday, despite having barely 4 hours of sleep. Adrenaline and excitement fueled me as I put the finishing touches on the decorations. I strategically hung the Happy 10th Birthday Lily banner, where it would be the first thing she'd see upon entering the living room. I set out the paper, plates, cups, and napkins, all coordinating with the cosmic theme. I placed the gift bags for party games on a side table, each containing space-themed trinkets, glow sticks, and star-shaped candies. When Lily finally woke up and came into the living room, her reaction was everything I'd hoped for. Her mouth dropped open in awe as she took in the transformation. "Mom, it looks like outer space in here," she gasped, her eyes wide with wonder as she spun around to see the hanging planets and glowing constellations. "Happy birthday, my little astronaut," I said, pulling her into a hug. After breakfast, we started the final preparations together. The party was scheduled to start at 2 p.m., giving family members plenty of time to arrive. Around noon, I sent a group text to my parents, Kimberly and Andrew. "Party preparations going well. Looking forward to seeing everyone at 2. Lily is so excited you're all coming." I received no responses, which struck me as odd, but I brushed it off, assuming everyone was busy getting ready or perhaps driving. By 1:30 p.m., I still hadn't heard from any family members, so I sent individual texts. "Are you on your way?" I texted my mother. No response. "What time should we expect you?" I wrote to Kimberly. Nothing. "Everything okay?" "Party starting soon." I messaged Andrew. Silence. At 1:45 p.m., the first of Lily's friends arrived with his parents. Soon after, more children started showing up. Lily greeted them excitedly but kept glancing toward the door, clearly watching for her grandparents and aunt and uncle. "When are Grandma and Grandpa coming?" she asked me quietly as she helped arrange gift bags. "Soon, sweetie. They're probably just running a little late," I assured her, though I was beginning to worry myself. By 2:15 p.m., most of the invited children had arrived, but still no sign of any family members. I tried calling each of them, but all calls went straight to voicemail. Lily's frequent glances at the door were becoming more anxious. At 2:30 p.m., I received a text from Kimberly. "So sorry, not going to make it. Minor emergency with the dog. Tell Lily happy B-Day." A dog emergency? Kimberly's Chihuahua Bella was perpetually in some kind of emergency whenever Kimberly needed an excuse to cancel plans. I felt my blood pressure rising but forced myself to stay calm for Lily's sake. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Hi, Mom. Are you and Dad on your way?" "The party's in full swing," I said, trying to keep the tension out of my voice. "Oh, Megan, I'm sorry, but we can't make it," she replied, sounding distracted. "The car's been making a funny noise, and your father doesn't think we should drive it until we get it checked out." "You could have called earlier," I said, unable to hide my disappointment. "Lily's been asking about you all day. Could you maybe get an Uber or a taxi? It would mean so much to her." "You know your father doesn't trust those services," she said dismissively. "We'll make it up to her another time. Give her our love." Before I could respond, she had hung up. I stood there, phone in hand, feeling a mixture of hurt and anger rising in my chest. My brother Andrew hadn't even bothered to call or text an excuse. Meanwhile, Lily was doing her best to enjoy her party, leading her friends in games and activities. But I could see her disappointment. During a quiet moment when the kids were busy decorating cosmic cookies, she sidled up to me. "They're not coming, are they?" she asked softly. The resignation in her voice broke my heart. "I don't think so, sweetie. Grandma and Grandpa had car trouble, And Aunt Kimberly had an issue with Bella. Uncle Andrew might still make it, I added, though I knew it was unlikely. Lily nodded bravely. That's okay. We're still having fun, right? Absolutely, I said, forcing enthusiasm into my voice. Let's get those galaxy slime kits ready for the next activity. Throughout the afternoon, I overheard Lily explaining to her curious friends why her family wasn't there. My grandparents had something really important, she told one friend. My aunt had to take care of her sick dog, she explained to another. Each time, she put on a brave smile, but I could see the hurt behind it. The party continued with games, cake, presents, and all the planned activities. The children had a good time, and on the surface, it was a successful celebration. But the absence of our family members left a palpable void that no amount of decorations or games could fill. As the party wound down and parents arrived to pick up their children, each one complimented the decorations and activities. You've done an amazing job, one mother told me. This is the coolest party we've been to, said another. Their kind words only emphasized how much effort I'd put into the day, and how my own family couldn't be bothered to show up. After the last guest left, Lily and I cleaned up in relative silence. When we finished, she sat on the couch surrounded by her new presents, but looked more exhausted than excited. Did you have a good birthday, despite everything? I asked carefully. She nodded, but her eyes welled with tears. I just thought they'd come this time. I even made special thank you cards for them. She pulled out 4 handmade cards from under the couch cushion, each decorated with careful drawings of stars and planets. That night, after I tucked Lily into bed with her new stuffed Saturn toy, I heard muffled crying through her bedroom door. I went in and found her curled up, trying to hide her tears. They don't care about me, do they? She whispered when I laid down beside her. Oh, Lily, they do, I said, stroking her hair. Though the words felt hollow, they just don't always show it in the right ways. But it was my 10th birthday, she said, her voice small and hurt. Double digits only happens once. I had no good answer for her. I held her until she finally fell asleep, then went to my own room where I finally allowed my own tears to fall. Tears of anger, disappointment, and heartbreak for my daughter. As I scrolled through the photos I'd taken that day, Lily's brave smile in every picture only made the absence of our family members more glaring. I sent one final text to the family group chat. Party's over. Lily missed you all. If you'd like to explain to a heartbroken 10-year-old why her family couldn't show up for her special day, feel free to call tomorrow. No one responded. The days following Lily's birthday party were eerily quiet. My phone, usually buzzing with family group chat notifications and random texts from my mother asking for tech support, remained silent. I kept expecting someone to reach out with a genuine apology or at least a better explanation, but nothing came. By Monday morning, I had to focus on getting Lily ready for school and myself prepared for work. She was unusually quiet during breakfast, picking at her cereal instead of eating it. Are you feeling okay? I asked, placing a hand on her forehead to check for fever. I'm fine, she mumbled. Just not hungry. As I drove her to school, she stared out the window instead of chattering about her day ahead as she usually did. Honey, I know you're disappointed about Saturday, I began carefully. It's fine, Mom, she interrupted. You made it really nice. I'm still going to talk to Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Kimberly and Uncle Andrew about what happened, I promised. She shrugged. Don't bother. They probably had important stuff. Her resignation was worse than anger would have been. At 10 years old, my daughter was already learning to lower her expectations to avoid disappointment, a lesson no child should have to learn, especially about family. After dropping her off, I made my first attempt at reaching out. I called my parents' house, but no one answered. I left a voicemail asking them to call me back when they had a chance. I sent a text to Kimberly asking how her dog was doing, trying to open a channel of communication without immediately attacking. I even emailed Andrew, who often ignored texts but was usually responsive to emails for his work. By Wednesday, I still hadn't received any responses. Concerned and increasingly frustrated, I checked Facebook to see if there were any clues about what my family was doing, instead of responding to me. What I found made my blood boil. My mother had posted photos on Sunday, the day after Lily's party, of a neighborhood barbecue they'd attended. Lovely afternoon with neighbors. Read the caption under a photo of my parents smiling with plates of food. Kimberly had checked in at an expensive spa on Saturday, the very day of Lily's party, with the caption, "Self-Care Day with the Girls." A number, bless number spaday. The timestamp showed 2:17 p.m., right around when she had texted me about her dog emergency. And Andrew had posted a photo from a baseball game on Saturday afternoon, beers in hand with his friends, grinning widely in the stadium seats. His caption, "Perfect day for a game. Number no better way. Number weekend." I stared at my phone in disbelief. They hadn't had emergencies or car trouble. They simply chose to do other things instead of attending Lily's birthday, then lied about it. And now they were ignoring my attempts to talk about it. Furious, I sent a group text with screenshots of all 3 posts. Interesting emergencies you all had on Saturday. Thanks for prioritizing Lily's once-in-a-lifetime 10th birthday. Kimberly responded almost immediately. Don't be dramatic. Kids have birthdays every year. My mother wrote, the car really was making a noise. The barbecue was just down the street, so we didn't have to drive. Andrew didn't respond at all. When I tried to call each of them, my calls went straight to voicemail. They were deliberately avoiding a real conversation. Meanwhile, Lily was showing signs of the emotional impact. Her teacher emailed me expressing concern that Lily seemed withdrawn in class. At home, she stopped asking about her grandparents or aunt and uncle, when previously she'd often ask when we'd next see them. The handmade thank you cards remained on her desk unsent. One night, as I tucked her in, she asked a question that broke my heart. Mom, did I do something wrong? Is that why they didn't come? Absolutely not, I said firmly, sitting on the edge of her bed. You did nothing wrong, Lily. Sometimes adults make poor choices that have nothing to do with the children in their lives. But they always come to Christmas, she reasoned, trying to make sense of the situation. Yes, they do, I acknowledged, not wanting to destroy her relationship with her grandparents completely. I think they made a mistake this time, and they're having trouble admitting it. To try to lift Lily's spirits, I planned special mother-daughter activities over the next few weekends. We visited the Real Planetarium, went hiking at a nature preserve, and had a movie night with her favorite films. She seemed to enjoy these outings, but there was a new guardedness to her that hadn't been there before. After 2 weeks of silence from my family, I reached out to my friend Rachel for advice. We met for coffee during my lunch break, and I unloaded the whole situation. Honestly, Megan, I'm not surprised, Rachel said after listening intently. Your family has always taken advantage of you, as long as I've known you. What do you mean? I asked, though part of me already knew. Think about it. You're always the one expected to drop everything when your parents need help with their computer or when Kimberly needs a last-minute babysitter for her kids. When was the last time any of them did something just for you, without expecting anything in return? Her words hit me hard because they were true. I thought back to countless occasions. Driving my mother to doctor's appointments when my father was too busy with his golf game, loaning Kimberly money that was never repaid, helping Andrew move apartments when none of his friends showed up. I was always the reliable one, the responsible one, and now, when my daughter needed them for just one important day, they couldn't be bothered to show up. I think I need to take a break from them, I said finally, surprising myself with the decision. Rachel squeezed my hand supportively. I think that might be healthy. Set some boundaries. See how they respond. As I drove back to work, memories flooded back. Birthdays of mine that were forgotten or minimized. Achievements that were dismissed. Needs that were ignored while my siblings were celebrated and supported. A pattern that had existed my entire life was now affecting my daughter, and I couldn't allow that to continue. When I picked up Lily from school that afternoon, she seemed a little brighter than she had been recently. Mrs. Garcia said, I did really good on my science project, she told me, referring to her teacher. She said I might get to present it at the school science fair. That's wonderful, sweetie, I said, genuinely proud. Your space ecosystem model was amazing. Do you think Grandma and Grandpa would come to the science fair if I get picked? She asked hesitantly. Her question cemented my decision. I don't know, Lily, but I'll be there, front and center, and we can invite Rachel and her family too. People who really want to celebrate you. As we drove home, I made a silent promise to myself and to Lily. From now on, we would surround ourselves with people who showed up, who cared consistently, who didn't make us feel like an afterthought. Family or not, Everyone in our lives would need to earn their place through actions, not just blood relations. The silence from my family stretched into a third week, and then a fourth. I made no further attempts to contact them. If they couldn't take the initiative to apologize or at least explain themselves, then I had my answer about where Lily and I stood in their priorities. 26 days after Lily's birthday party. Not that I was counting. My phone rang with Kimberly's name on the caller ID. I was in the middle of preparing dinner, and my first instinct was to ignore it. But curiosity got the better of me. After nearly a month of silence, why was she calling now? Hello, I answered, trying to keep my tone neutral. Hey, Meg. Kimberly chirped as if nothing had happened, her voice artificially bright. How's it going? Fine, I replied cautiously. What's up? Just checking in, she said. How's work? How's Lily doing? I was immediately suspicious. Kimberly never just checked in without wanting something. Still, I played along, giving brief answers about work being busy and Lily doing well in school. That's great, she said, barely acknowledging my responses. So listen, I'm calling about something important. There it was. What is it? I asked, already feeling my guard go up. Well, as you know, Mom and Dad's 40th anniversary is coming up in July, she began, her voice taking on an enthusiastic tone that sounded rehearsed. Andrew and I have been planning something special. We're going to surprise them with a luxury cruise to Alaska. Isn't that amazing? That sounds nice, I said cautiously. I'm sure they'll enjoy that. They absolutely will. It's a 2-week cruise with all the premium packages, private balcony suite, exclusive dining, shore excursions, the works. They deserve it after everything they've done for us over the years, don't you think? I murmured noncommittally, waiting for the other shoe to drop. So anyway, Kimberly continued, the total cost comes to about $7,400, which is a lot, but split between the three of us, it's manageable. Your share would be $1,850. We need the money by next Friday to secure the reservation while the special rate lasts. I nearly dropped the spatula I was holding. $1,850? I repeated incredulously. You're calling me after a month of silence to ask for $1,850? Come on, Megan, Kimberly said, her tone shifting to slightly irritated. It's for Mom and Dad. After everything they've done for us growing up, all the sacrifices they made, especially for you as a single mom. They've helped you out so much with Lily. Have they? I challenged, feeling my simmering anger from the past month finally boiling over, because they couldn't even show up to her 10th birthday party. Neither could you or Andrew, for that matter. There was a brief silence before Kimberly sighed dramatically. Are you seriously still upset about that? Kids have parties all the time, Megan. It's not a big deal. It was a big deal to Lily, I said, my voice shaking. She cried herself to sleep that night because her family didn't think she was important enough to show up for. And none of you even had the decency to give her a real apology. We were busy, Kimberly dismissed. Life happens. Anyway, that's not what I'm calling about. Can you do the $1,850 or not? Andrew and I have already put down the deposit. The audacity was breathtaking. No, I said firmly. I cannot and will not contribute $1,850 for a luxury cruise when none of you could spare 3 hours for Lily's birthday. That's not happening. Kimberly's voice turned cold. Wow, that's really selfish, Megan. After everything Mom and Dad have done for you, this is how you repay them? By holding a grudge over one little missed birthday party? It wasn't just a missed party, I said. It was lying about why you couldn't come, then ignoring us for weeks afterward. And now you're calling not to apologize, but to ask for money? Are you serious right now? Fine, she snapped. Be that way, but don't think there won't be consequences for this. You're breaking Mom's heart with your attitude. My attitude? I laughed incredulously. How would Mom even know my attitude? None of you have spoken to me in weeks. Because we knew you'd be like this, Kimberly shouted. Dramatic and difficult as always. This is why it's so hard to deal with you, Megan. Everything is always such a production with you. Before I could respond, she hung up. I stood in my kitchen, phone in hand, completely stunned by the conversation. Not only was there no apology, but somehow I was being cast as the villain for not forking over money I didn't have for a luxury cruise. Within minutes, my phone began buzzing with texts from Andrew. Way to be selfish. $1,850 isn't even that much. Parents did everything for you, and you can't do this one thing. Typical Megan. Always making everything about you. Kimberly already covered your deposit, so you better pay her back. I didn't respond to any of his messages. Instead, I blocked his number, feeling a strange sense of calm as I did so. Then my parents called. Taking a deep breath, I answered, "Megan." My father's voice came through, stern and disapproving. "We need to talk about this anniversary gift situation. Dad, I'm not contributing to an expensive cruise when my own daughter was ignored on her birthday," I said, keeping my voice level. "That's ancient history," he dismissed. "You need to stop dwelling on the past. Your mother and I are very disappointed in your selfishness right now." "My selfishness?" I repeated. "Dad, do you even realize what you're asking? I'm a single mom on a tight budget. I can't just pull $1,850 out of thin air for a luxury cruise." "You always have excuses," my mother chimed in, apparently on speakerphone. "We've done so much for you and Lily over the years. The least you could do is contribute to this special occasion." "What exactly have you done for Lily lately?" I challenged. "You couldn't even show up to celebrate her birthday. You chose a neighborhood barbecue instead." "That's not fair," my mother protested. "We had car trouble." "I saw the Facebook posts, Mom," I said tiredly. "Please don't lie to me again." There was an uncomfortable silence before my father spoke again, his voice hard. "Here's the bottom line, Megan. Either you contribute to this anniversary gift, or you should think very carefully about what kind of relationship you want with this family going forward." The implied threat was clear. Pay up or be cast out. And in that moment, something broke and reformed within me. "I've already been thinking about that, Dad," I said quietly. "And I've made my decision. I won't be contributing to the cruise. And I think Lily and I need some time away from all of you." "You don't mean that," my mother said, her voice suddenly anxious. "You're just being emotional." "No, Mom. For once, I'm being rational. This isn't healthy for me or for Lily. I need to put her first." "If that's your attitude, then don't consider yourself part of this family," my father shouted, his temper finally breaking through. "If being part of this family means being treated like an ATM while my daughter is ignored, then maybe that's for the best," I replied, surprising myself with my calmness. My mother gasped, and my father hung up without another word. I stood in the middle of my kitchen, shaking but strangely liberated. For the first time in my adult life, I had stood firm against my family's manipulation. It felt terrifying and empowering all at once. That night, after putting Lily to bed, I sat down at my computer and wrote a long, detailed email to my entire family. I explained exactly how their actions had affected Lily, how their dismissal of her feelings and their subsequent behavior had been hurtful and unfair. I outlined a pattern of being taken for granted that had gone on for too long. I concluded by saying I needed space and time to reevaluate our relationships, and that any future contact would need to be based on mutual respect and consideration. I didn't expect any positive responses, and I didn't get any, except for one surprising text the next morning from James, Kimberly's husband. "Megan, I saw your email. For what it's worth, I'm really sorry about how things went down with Lily's birthday. I wanted to come but was overruled. This whole cruise thing is out of hand, and I'm embarrassed by how it's being handled. Take the space you need. Some of us understand." His message, while not fixing anything, gave me a small sense of validation. At least, someone in the family recognized the unreasonableness of the situation. It was a tiny lifeline in what was otherwise a complete family rupture. 3 days after my confrontation with my family, I was folding laundry in the living room when a sharp knock at the door startled me. Through the peephole, I saw 2 police officers standing in the hallway of my apartment building. My heart rate immediately spiked. Had there been an accident? Was someone hurt? I opened the door, trying to appear calm despite my racing pulse. "Can I help you, officers?" "Are you Megan Walker?" the taller officer asked, checking a small notebook in his hand. "Yes, that's me," I confirmed. my mind racing through possibilities. Had my car been hid in the parking lot? Was there a break-in somewhere in the building? "I'm Officer Reynolds, and this is Officer Chen," he introduced. "We're conducting a welfare check. May we come in for a moment?" "A welfare check?" I repeated, confused but stepping aside to let them enter. "I don't understand." "We received a call from concerned family members," Officer Chen explained, her eyes scanning the apartment. "They expressed worry about your mental state and the welfare of your child. They claimed you've been making erratic decisions and possibly creating an unsafe environment." The realization hit me like a physical blow. My family had called the police on me because I wouldn't give them money. The sheer vindictiveness of it took my breath away. "That's absolutely not true," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. "My daughter is at school right now. She's perfectly safe and well cared for. This is retaliation because I refused to give my siblings $1,850 for a cruise." As the words left my mouth, I heard the front door open, and Lily's voice called out, "Mom, Mrs. Peterson, let me come home early because my stomach hurts." She froze in the doorway, her backpack still slung over one shoulder, eyes widening at the sight of police officers in our living room. The color drained from her face. "Mom?" she whispered, fear evident in her voice. "What's happening? Did something bad happen?" "Everything's okay, sweetie," I reassured her quickly, moving to her side. "These officers just need to ask a few questions. It's routine." Officer Reynolds smiled kindly at Lily. "Hi there. Are you Lily?" She nodded silently, pressing closer to my side. "Are you feeling safe at home with your mom?" he asked gently. "Of course." Lily looked confused and increasingly frightened. "Why wouldn't I be safe with my mom? She takes care of me." Officer Chen nodded. "Does your mom ever leave you alone for long periods?" "No," Lily answered, looking up at me with confusion. "Only when I'm at school or sometimes when Rachel babysits if mom has to work late." The officers continued asking Lily a few more standard questions, which she answered clearly, though I could feel her trembling against me. After establishing that she was well-fed, attended school regularly, and had no unexplained injuries, they turned their attention back to me. "Can we speak privately for a moment?" Officer Reynolds asked. I nodded, turning to Lily. "Sweetie, can you go to your room and rest since your stomach hurts? I'll be there in just a few minutes." After Lily reluctantly disappeared down the hallway, I faced the officers, no longer hiding my anger. "This is harassment," I said quietly, but firmly. "My sister Kimberly called you because I refused to contribute to an expensive gift. She's trying to intimidate me." "What's the situation there?" Officer Reynolds asked, his tone becoming more conversational. I gave them a brief but honest account of what had transpired: the missed birthday party, the subsequent ghosting, and finally the demand for money followed by threats when I refused. "My family is upset because I'm finally setting boundaries," I concluded. "There's absolutely nothing wrong with my mental health or my parenting. My daughter is my priority, which is why I couldn't justify spending money we don't have on a luxury cruise for people who couldn't even attend her birthday." Officer Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Unfortunately, we see this kind of thing more often than you'd think. Family disputes that escalate to false welfare calls. We still had to check, of course." "I understand you were doing your job," I acknowledged, "but this is going to traumatize my daughter. She just saw police officers questioning whether her home is safe. We'll note in our report that this appears to be an unfounded call motivated by a family financial dispute," Officer Reynolds said. "If there are repeated false reports, that can constitute harassment, which has its own legal consequences. Is there anything I need to do? Will this create a record or case file about me?" I asked, worried about potential consequences. "We have to document the welfare check," Officer Chen explained. "But our report will clearly state that we found no evidence of any concerns and that this appears to be retaliatory. If you experience further harassment, document everything. You might want to consider a restraining order if this escalates." After the officers left, I rushed to Lily's room and found her sitting on her bed, hugging her knees to her chest. "Mom, why were police here? Did I do something wrong?" she asked, her voice small and frightened. "No, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong at all," I assured her, sitting beside her and pulling her into a hug. "And I didn't either. Sometimes when adults have disagreements, they make poor choices. Was it about Grandma and Grandpa and Aunt Kimberly and Uncle Andrew? She asked perceptively. I hesitated, not wanting to turn Lily against her family, but also unwilling to lie to her. Yes, it was. We're having a disagreement right now, and they did something they shouldn't have done. Did they call the police on you? She asked, her eyes widening. It seems that way, I admitted. But the officers could see that everything is fine here, that we're both okay. Why would they do that? Lily asked, genuine confusion in her voice. Are they mad because they missed my party? The innocence of her question nearly broke me. It's complicated, sweetie. Grown-up problems are often messy and don't make much sense. But I want you to know that you're safe. I'm safe. And we're going to be okay. She nodded, but I could see the worry lingering in her eyes. Are we still going to see them? For holidays and stuff? I think we need to take a little break from seeing them for a while, I said carefully. Until the grown-ups can figure things out. After comforting Lily and making sure she was settled, I checked my phone to find a missed call from my mother. I listened to the voicemail with mounting disbelief. Megan, this has gone far enough. My mother's voice came through, simultaneously scolding and pleading. We were worried about you and Lily after your disturbing email. You've never cut contact with family before, and it seemed like you might be having some kind of breakdown. We only called for a welfare check out of concern. Call me back so we can sort this out. And please reconsider the anniversary gift. Your father and I have given you so much over the years. I sat down heavily on the couch, the phone still in my hand. The mental gymnastics required to reframe their vindictive action as concern was staggering. And to bring up the cruise again, after sending police to my door, the disconnect from reality was almost impressive. Against my better judgment, I called my mother back, determined to have one final conversation to make my position absolutely clear. Megan, thank goodness, she answered immediately. We've been so worried. Stop, I interrupted firmly. Let's be honest with each other for once. You weren't worried about me or Lily. You were angry that I stood up to you and refused to give you money. Sending police to my home was a punishment, not an act of concern. That's not true, my mother protested. Your email was very concerning. Cutting off family is not normal behavior. Neither is ghosting your granddaughter's birthday and then demanding nearly $2,000 for a luxury cruise, I countered. Neither is calling the police on your daughter because she won't give you money. You're blowing everything out of proportion, she insisted. We missed one birthday party. It's not the end of the world. It's not just about the party, I said, fighting to keep my voice calm. It's about a pattern of treating me and Lily as less important, less valuable than everyone else in this family. And now you've escalated to involving authorities in a family dispute. Do you have any idea how frightened Lily was to see police officers in our home? There was a brief silence before my mother spoke again, her voice taking on the martyred tone I knew so well. I can see there's no reasoning with you right now. You've always been so dramatic, Megan. When you're ready to apologize and be part of this family again, you know where to find us. Apologize? I repeated incredulously. For what exactly? For refusing to be manipulated and intimidated? For disrespecting your parents and causing this unnecessary drama, she said with finality. The cruise deposit deadline is this Friday. I hope you'll do the right thing. With that, she hung up, leaving me staring at my phone in disbelief. The conversation had confirmed what I already knew. There was no acknowledgement of wrongdoing, no genuine concern for Lily's feelings, no respect for my boundaries, just manipulation, gaslighting, and attempts at control. That night, after Lily was asleep, I drafted a clear, detailed email documenting everything that had happened from Lily's birthday to the police visit. I sent it to my entire family, including extended members, aunts, uncles, cousins who might only be hearing my parents' version of events. I wasn't trying to recruit allies, but I wanted the truth to be known. I concluded the email by stating unequivocally that I would no longer be in contact with my parents, Kimberly or Andrew, until they could acknowledge their behavior and make meaningful amends. I explained that this decision was not made lightly, but was necessary for the emotional well-being of both myself and Lily. Within hours, my phone was flooded with messages. Most were from extended family members who had sided with my parents, condemning me for tearing the family apart over a birthday party. A few expressed tentative support but urged reconciliation for the sake of the family. Only my cousin Jessica and Aunt Linda sent messages of unequivocal support, having witnessed similar treatment from my parents over the years. The harassment continued over the next few days. Calls from blocked numbers, passive-aggressive social media posts clearly aimed at me, and even a few family friends stopping by, unannounced to check on me and urge reconciliation. When I received an anonymous text threatening to call Child Protective Services next time, I'd had enough. I contacted a lawyer who specialized in family law and harassment cases, bringing copies of all communications, the police report from the welfare check, and a timeline of events. This is clearly harassment and intimidation, the lawyer confirmed after reviewing everything. I recommend filing for a restraining order, at least against your sister Kimberly, who seems to be the primary instigator. The threat to call CPS is particularly concerning. Following her advice, I filed the paperwork for a restraining order against Kimberly. When the court date arrived 2 weeks later, I was nervous but resolute. I presented my evidence clearly and calmly, including the threatening text messages, the false police report, and the pattern of escalation. Kimberly appeared stunned that I had actually gone through with legal action. She tried to paint herself as the victim, claiming I was mentally unstable and vindictive over petty family squabbles. But when the judge asked her directly about the police welfare check and the threats regarding CPS, her explanations became contradictory and defensive. Miss Walker, the judge addressed me after hearing both sides. The court finds sufficient evidence of harassment and intimidation to grant the restraining order against Kimberly Davis for a period of 1 year. She is to have no contact with you or your daughter, directly or through third parties, and must maintain a distance of at least 100 yards from your home, workplace, and your daughter's school. The relief I felt was immediate and overwhelming. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe freely. As we left the courthouse, I noticed my parents sitting in the back of the room. They had come to support Kimberly but hadn't spoken or testified. Their expressions were a mixture of shock and anger. Shock that I had followed through, anger that I had won. Outside, my father approached me, his face flushed with anger. "Is this what you wanted? To humiliate your sister in court? To tear this family apart?" "No, Dad," I replied quietly. "All I wanted was respect and basic decency for my daughter. Everything else was your choice." "You've made your choice," my mother said, her voice brittle. "Don't expect us to be there when you realize your mistake." As they walked away to comfort a tearful Kimberly, I realized this was truly the end of my relationship with my family, as I had known it. There was grief in that realization, but also a surprising sense of peace. I had done what was necessary to protect myself and Lily from toxic patterns that had persisted for too long. The restraining order against Kimberly was eventually extended to include Andrew as well, after he made several aggressive attempts to contact me in violation of the no third-party contact provision. My parents, though not legally barred from contact, chose to cut ties completely rather than acknowledge any wrongdoing. It was a painful outcome, but as I drove home from that final court hearing, I knew it was the right one. The road ahead would be challenging, but it would be one of our own choosing, free from manipulation, gaslighting, and conditional love. The immediate aftermath of the court hearings left a strange quiet in our lives. The constant barrage of texts, calls, and unexpected visits had ceased, replaced by a silence that was both peaceful and disorienting. For so long, family drama had been a constant background noise in my life. The absence of it created a void that I didn't immediately know how to fill. The first major challenge came with practical matters. I had occasionally relied on my parents for childcare when work ran late or during school holidays. Without that safety net, I had to scramble to find alternatives. My budget, already tight, stretched even further to accommodate after-school programs and occasional babysitters. The financial strain was significant. I had to take on extra freelance administrative work in the evenings after Lily went to bed, often working until midnight to make ends meet. The irony wasn't lost on me. My refusal to pay $1,850 for a cruise had led to financial struggles that would ultimately cost more in childcare and lost sleep. But this was different. This was an investment in our well-being and independence, not a capitulation to emotional blackmail. The isolation extended beyond just my immediate family. Within weeks, it became clear that the family divide had spread to extended relatives as well. Invitations to my cousin's wedding and my uncle's retirement party were conspicuously absent. Facebook posts from family gatherings showed everyone together, minus Lily and me. It was as if we had been erased from the family narrative. Most painful was watching the effect on Lily. While she seemed relieved to no longer have the tension of recent months, she still struggled to understand the permanence of the separation. Children are remarkably resilient, but they also crave stability and connection. The absence of grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins left a hole in her life that was difficult to fill. About 3 weeks after the restraining order was granted, Lily's school counselor, Mrs. Patel, called me for a meeting. My stomach dropped, fearing more family interference, but her concerns were genuine. Lily's been spending recess alone lately, Mrs. Patel explained gently, and her teacher mentioned she's been quieter in class. When I spoke with her, she mentioned that she's worried about making friends because people always leave eventually. Hearing those words was like a knife to my heart. My 10-year-old daughter was developing trust issues because of adult failures. She also mentioned feeling guilty, Mrs. Patel continued. She believes the family problems are somehow her fault, because of her birthday party. That evening, I sat with Lily on our small balcony, watching the sunset as we shared ice cream, our special ritual for important conversations. Mrs. Patel mentioned you've been feeling sad at school, I began carefully. Lily shrugged, poking at her ice cream. It's not a big deal. It is to me, I said. Especially if you're thinking any of this family stuff is your fault. Because it's absolutely not. Lily was quiet for a long moment. But if I hadn't wanted a birthday party, none of this would have happened. I set down my ice cream and turned to face her fully. Lily, listen to me. Wanting to celebrate your birthday is normal and right. The problem wasn't your party. The problem was adults not treating you with the love and respect you deserve. None of that is your fault. Then why did they stop loving us? She asked, her voice small. The question nearly broke me. They didn't stop loving us, I said, choosing my words carefully. But sometimes love gets mixed up with other things, like control or expectations. And sometimes people don't know how to love in healthy ways. Will we ever see them again? She asked. I don't know, I answered honestly. Right now, we need some distance to be healthy and happy. But the future isn't something we can predict. That conversation convinced me that both Lily and I needed professional help navigating this new reality. I found a therapist who specialized in family trauma and arranged sessions for Lily. With my insurance covering only a portion and money already tight, I opted to attend a more affordable group therapy session for adults dealing with family estrangement. Lily's therapist, Dr. Martinez, was wonderful, gentle but straightforward, helping Lily understand complex family dynamics in age-appropriate ways. After just a few sessions, I noticed small improvements. She began playing with friends at recess again. She stopped apologizing for normal requests and expressions of feelings. Meanwhile, my group therapy sessions were revelatory. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who truly understood the complicated grief of family estrangement. They didn't offer platitudes like, but they're your family, or you only get one set of parents. Instead, they validated the painful necessity of sometimes stepping away from toxic relationships, even familial ones. Through these sessions, I began to understand concepts that explained so much of my family dynamic. Family scapegoating. How I had been assigned the role of the problem child despite being the most responsible, making me an easy target for blame and criticism. Generational patterns. How my parents were likely repeating behaviors they had experienced in their own upbringings. Financial abuse and control. Using money as a tool for manipulation and punishment. Triangulation. How family members were pitted against each other, with shifting alliances that maintained the power structure. Understanding these patterns didn't excuse the behavior, but it helped me process it with less personal pain. It wasn't about me being unworthy of love. It was about dysfunctional systems that had persisted for generations. As our formal support system developed, so did our informal one. Rachel, always a loyal friend, became even more present in our lives. She invited us for Sunday dinners with her family, ensuring Lily had regular contact with her children. My coworker, Denise, after learning about our situation, invited Lily to join her daughter's scout troop, providing another community connection. Slowly, we were building what my therapist called our chosen family. People connected not by blood, but by genuine care and mutual respect. The first holiday season without my family loomed as a significant hurdle. Thanksgiving had always been at my parents' house, with established traditions and familiar dynamics. As November approached, I felt a growing anxiety about how to make the holiday special for Lily without those familiar elements. "We should create our own traditions," Lily suggested one evening as we discussed Thanksgiving plans. "Something that's just ours." And so we did. Instead of trying to recreate a traditional Thanksgiving, we invented Gratitude Day. We volunteered at a community center serving meals in the morning, then returned home to make our favorite foods, regardless of whether they were traditional Thanksgiving dishes. Pizza alongside cranberry sauce, tacos with a side of mashed potatoes. The combinations were weird but wonderful. We created a gratitude tree, writing things we were thankful for on paper leaves, and adding them to a branch we'd collected from the park. Rachel and her family joined us that evening, bringing their own unconventional contributions to the feast. The day was different from any Thanksgiving I'd experienced before, but it was filled with more genuine laughter and comfort than I could remember from recent family holidays. Christmas presented its own challenges. Lily had always received lavish gifts from her grandparents and aunt and uncle. I worried about her disappointment with our necessarily more modest celebration. But once again, we focused on creating new traditions rather than trying to replicate old ones. We baked cookies for neighbors, attended free holiday concerts in the park, and made homemade ornaments. I carefully budgeted to provide a few special gifts, and Rachel's family included Lily in their Christmas Eve celebration. On Christmas morning, as Lily excitedly opened her presents, she paused and looked around our small living room, decorated with our handmade ornaments and paper snowflakes. "This is nice," she said simply. "It feels calm." Her observation struck me. Our previous family Christmases had always contained an undercurrent of tension. Passive-aggressive comments, competitions over gifts, subtle power plays disguised as holiday traditions. Without that underlying stress, even our simpler celebration felt more genuine and joyful. There were difficult days, of course. Days when Lily missed her cousins fiercely. Days when I questioned my decisions, wondering if I had done the right thing by cutting ties so completely. Days when the practical challenges of single parenting without family support felt overwhelming. On those days, I would return to the tools I was learning in therapy: self-compassion, grounding techniques, and reaching out for support when needed. I kept a journal during this period, documenting both struggles and progress. One entry from about 6 months after the estrangement particularly stands out. Today, I realized I haven't had that knot in my stomach before checking my phone in weeks. For years, I'd feel a surge of anxiety every time I saw a notification from family, wondering what crisis, demand, or criticism awaited. That constant low-grade dread is gone now. The price of this peace has been high, but I'm starting to believe it was worth it. Lily laughed so much today. That deep belly laugh I hadn't heard in too long. We're building something new here, something healthier. As winter turned to spring, I noticed more moments like these. Small signs of healing and growth that affirmed we were moving in the right direction. Lily's nightmares became less frequent. My own sleep improved. We were finding our way forward, one day at a time. 6 months after the restraining orders were granted, I was loading groceries into my car when I heard a familiar voice call my name. I turned to see my father, Thomas, standing awkwardly a few parking spaces away. My first instinct was to check if Kimberly or Andrew was with him. The restraining orders would be violated if they were, but he appeared to be alone. "Megan," he said again, taking a tentative step closer. "Can we talk for a moment?" I hesitated, my heart pounding. Part of me wanted to refuse, to protect the fragile peace Lily and I had established. But another part, the part that would always be a daughter who loved her father, couldn't simply walk away. "Just talk," I agreed cautiously. "Here in the parking lot." He nodded, keeping a respectful distance. He looked older somehow, more lines around his eyes, His shoulders slightly stooped. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he began, his voice uncharacteristically subdued. "About Lily's birthday. About everything that happened afterward. I think things got out of hand." It wasn't quite an apology, but it was more acknowledgement than I'd expected. I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. "Your mother and I miss Lily," he said. "And you. The family doesn't feel right with you two gone." "We've missed you too," I admitted, surprised by the thickness in my throat. "But that doesn't change what happened." "I know," he said, looking down at his hands. "I'm not saying it does, but maybe we could try to work things out? Maybe with some professional help, family counseling or something?" The suggestion caught me off guard. My father had always dismissed therapy as nonsense for people too weak to handle their problems. For him to suggest it indicated either a significant shift in perspective or a desperate desire to reconnect. "I'd need to think about it," I said carefully. "And there would have to be ground rules. Real acknowledgement of what happened, not just sweeping it under the rug. And Kimberly and Andrew would need to respect the restraining orders." He nodded quickly. Of course. Maybe we could start small? Lunch? Just you and me? To discuss how to move forward?" After some consideration, I agreed to meet him the following Saturday at a restaurant, halfway between our homes. I chose a public place intentionally, somewhere I could easily leave if things went sideways. When I told Lily about the conversation, her reaction was mixed, hope and wariness in equal measure. "Are we going to see Grandpa again?" she asked. "I'm going to talk with him first," I explained, "to see if it might be possible to heal some of these hurts. But I want you to know that whatever happens, our priority is keeping both of us safe and healthy. Emotionally safe, not just physically safe." She nodded seriously. "Do you think they're sorry for missing my birthday?" "I hope so," I said honestly. "That would be a good first step. But being sorry means understanding what went wrong and trying to do better, not just saying the words." The days leading up to the lunch meeting were filled with a strange mixture of hope and anxiety. I spent hours thinking about what I needed to say, even writing down my non-negotiable boundaries. Respect for my parenting decisions. No financial manipulation. Genuine relationships with Lily based on her worth as a person rather than as a prop or obligation. Saturday arrived, and I drove to the restaurant with a peculiar calm. Whatever happened, I knew Lily and I would be okay. We had proven our resilience over these past months. Reconciliation would be welcome, but it wasn't essential to our well-being anymore. I arrived at the restaurant a few minutes early and asked for a table for two. The hostess led me to a booth in the corner, and my heart dropped. Already seated, there was not just my father, but my mother, Kimberly, and Andrew, all four of them, waiting expectantly, like an ambush disguised as a family reunion. "What is this?" I asked, remaining standing as the hostess walked away. "Dad, you said it would be just us." "Now, Megan," my mother began in her placating tone, "we thought it would be more productive if we were all here, like an intervention, so we can clear the air all at once. Kimberly and Andrew aren't supposed to be within 100 yards of me," I reminded them, my voice tight. "This is a violation of a legal order." "Oh, for heaven's sake," Kimberly scoffed. "We're in a public place. It's not like we're threatening you. This is exactly the kind of dramatic overreaction we need to address." I looked at my father, feeling the sting of betrayal fresh again. "You lied to get me here." He at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. "I thought once you saw everyone, you'd understand we're all trying to move past this unpleasantness." "Unpleasantness?" I repeated. "Is that what you call missing Lily's birthday, demanding money, and calling the police to my home? Unpleasantness? Please sit down," my mother urged, glancing around at nearby diners who were beginning to notice our tension. "People are staring." Against my better judgment, I slid into the booth, keeping my purse beside me for a quick exit if needed. "Say what you need to say," I said flatly. What followed was not the reconciliation discussion I had hoped for, but rather a scripted intervention where each family member had prepared statements about my concerning behavior and overreactions. They had apparently consulted with a family therapist, but only to gather ammunition rather than seek genuine understanding. My mother went first, expressing concern about my pattern of cutting off communication when faced with conflict. She conveniently omitted that the conflict in question involved their complete dismissal of my daughter's feelings. Andrew spoke about how my stubbornness was hurting the entire family, as if the restraining order had been a casual choice rather than a necessary response to harassment. Kimberly, the most aggressive, accused me of using Lily as a pawn to punish them, completely inverting the reality of who had been hurt and by whom. My father concluded with what he clearly thought was a generous offer. They were willing to forgive my behavior if I would agree to their conditions for reconciliation. Those conditions made it abundantly clear that nothing had fundamentally changed. 1. I would need to apologize for my overreaction and for taking legal action against family. 2. I would still be expected to contribute to their anniversary cruise, though they had graciously reduced the amount to $1,000. 3. I would be required to attend all family functions without bringing up past grievances. 4. The topic of Lily's birthday party was to be permanently off limits for discussion. This isn't reconciliation, I said quietly when they finished. This is a demand for surrender. You're not acknowledging any wrongdoing. You're just trying to force me back into the same dynamic where my feelings and Lily's feelings don't matter. There you go again, being dramatic. Kimberly sighed exaggeratedly. This is exactly the problem. The problem, I countered, is that you still don't see what you did wrong. Missing Lily's birthday wasn't just a scheduling conflict. It was a clear message about where she ranks in your priorities. And instead of apologizing, you demanded money, then called the police when I refused. Water under the bridge, my father dismissed. We're trying to move forward here. Moving forward requires acknowledging what happened, I insisted. Otherwise, we're just setting ourselves up to repeat the same patterns. The conversation continued in this circular fashion for nearly half an hour. They wanted reconciliation without accountability. I couldn't accept one without the other. We were at an impasse that felt achingly familiar, the same dynamic that had defined our family for decades. Then came the final blow. We've been in touch with Lily's father, my mother announced casually, as if mentioning she'd run into an old friend at the grocery store. The statement hit me like a physical blow. Jason, Lily's father, had abandoned us before she was even born. He had signed away his parental rights when she was 2, after I'd tracked him down to at least get family medical history. He had never sent a birthday card, never paid $1 of child support, never shown the slightest interest in the amazing person his daughter was becoming. What? I managed to ask, my voice barely above a whisper. We thought it might be good for Lily to have a father figure, my mother continued, seemingly oblivious to my shock. Especially since you're being so difficult. He's agreed to help us provide some structure and discipline. You contacted my daughter's absent father, too. What? Punish me? Override my parenting? I was struggling to process the magnitude of this betrayal. Don't be melodramatic, Kimberly interjected. We're thinking of Lily's best interests. Children need fathers. Lily needed her family at her birthday party, I countered, my voice surprisingly steady, despite the rage and hurt coursing through me. She needed grandparents who showed up. She needed an aunt and uncle who valued her enough to keep their promises. That's what Lily needed, not a sperm donor who's never shown any interest in being her father. I stood up, gathering my purse. This meeting is over. And so is any possibility of reconciliation on your terms. If you walk out that door, Megan, don't bother coming back, my father threatened, his voice hard. I looked at each of them in turn. These people who shared my blood but seemed incapable of understanding what family truly meant. I won't be back, I said with a calm certainty. And neither will Lily. Not until there's genuine change, not just demands for compliance. As I walked out of the restaurant, a strange sense of peace settled over me. The hope I'd carried for reconciliation had been painful in its own way, keeping alive the possibility that I was somehow wrong or overreacting. Now I had clarity. My family hadn't changed. They weren't willing to do the work necessary for real healing. The flurry of texts began before I even reached my car. Accusations of being selfish, of robbing Lily of her family, of dramatic overreactions. I blocked each number methodically. Then came emails, then messages through mutual acquaintances. The pattern was so predictable, it would have been almost comical if it weren't so painful. The final straw came when Jason himself, A man who had shown no interest in Lily for 10 years sent me a message claiming he was stepping up and would be pursuing visitation rights for Lily's sake. The coordination with my family was obvious and chilling. This time, I didn't hesitate. I contacted my lawyer immediately and filed for an extension of the existing restraining orders to include my parents. I also consulted with her about Jason's sudden interest, which she assured me had little legal standing given his history of abandonment and signed termination of rights. The court hearing was difficult but decisive. I presented evidence of the ambush lunch meeting, the continued harassment despite clear boundaries, and the manipulative attempt to involve Lily's absent father as a means of control. My family appeared stunned when the judge not only extended the existing restraining orders, but granted a new one against my parents as well. They had genuinely believed their behavior was justified, a realization that was perhaps the most painful part of the whole ordeal. As we left the courtroom, I caught my mother's eye briefly. The mixture of anger and incomprehension in her gaze told me everything I needed to know. She truly couldn't understand why her actions were harmful. The revelation was both heartbreaking and freeing. I couldn't fix what they couldn't see. The drive home from that final court hearing was quiet, but not heavy. The sadness I felt was clean somehow, grief for what would never be, rather than anguish over what might yet be saved. The distinction was subtle but profound. When I arrived home, Lily was waiting with Rachel, who had kindly stayed with her during the hearing. One look at my face told them both everything they needed to know. "It didn't work out with the family, did it?" Rachel asked softly. "No," I confirmed, sitting beside Lily on the couch. "It didn't." "Are you sad, Mom?" Lily asked, leaning against my shoulder. "A little," I admitted. It's always sad when relationships can't be fixed. But I'm also relieved. Now we know for sure which path we're on, and we can keep moving forward instead of looking back. Lily nodded thoughtfully, like when I tried to fix my old teddy bear after the stuffing came out, but it just kept getting worse. So we got a new one instead? I smiled at her simple but perfect analogy. Exactly like that. Sometimes the hardest part is accepting when something can't be fixed and finding the courage to let it go. That evening, as Lily and I made dinner together in our small kitchen, I realized we were laughing, really laughing. For the first time in days, the weight of uncertainty had been lifted. The path ahead was clearer now, defined not by what we had lost, but by what we were building. A new kind of family, bound not by obligation, but by genuine love and respect. The formal end of my relationship with my birth family marked not just a conclusion, but a beginning. We were free now to write our own story, without the constant pull of toxic expectations and conditional love. It was both terrifying and exhilarating, this vast, uncharted territory of possibility that stretched before us. 1 year after that final court hearing, Lily and I stood in our new apartment, a modest but sunny 2-bedroom on the 3rd floor of a well-maintained building across town. The move had been both practical and symbolic. A fresh start in a place untainted by difficult memories, closer to Lily's school and my work, with a small park nearby where she could ride her bike. So much had changed in that year. Looking around at the cheerful yellow walls we'd painted together, the bookshelves filled with Lily's growing collection of science books, the small balcony with its container garden of herbs and flowers, I marveled at how far we'd come from those dark, confusing days. My professional life had taken an unexpected but welcome turn. The extra freelance administrative work I'd taken on to make ends meet had led to connections with a marketing firm that appreciated my organizational skills and attention to detail. When a position opened for an executive assistant with potential for growth into project management, they encouraged me to apply. The job came with better pay, more flexible hours, and health benefits that covered therapy for both Lily and me, a crucial support we had been struggling to afford. Lily had blossomed too. Now 11, she had grown 3 inches in the past year and developed a passionate interest in marine biology after a school field trip to the aquarium. Her teacher had recommended her for the advanced science program at school, noting that she seemed more engaged and confident than ever. "She's really come out of her shell," Mrs. Garcia told me during our last parent-teacher conference. "Whatever you're doing at home, keep it up." What we were doing at home was building a new kind of support system, our chosen family, which had expanded in ways I never could have predicted. Rachel and her family remained our cornerstone, including us in their holiday celebrations and weekend outings. My coworker Denise and her daughter Maya had become close friends as well, with regular movie nights and homework sessions. Dr. Martinez, Lily's therapist, had helped her process the complex feelings around family estrangement with remarkable skill. Through play therapy and age-appropriate discussions, Lily had come to understand that sometimes loving someone means accepting that they can't be what you need them to be. The most important thing, Dr. Martinez had told me during one of our parent consultations, is that Lily now understands that what happened wasn't her fault. Children naturally blame themselves when family relationships break down. We've worked hard to help her see that adult problems belong to adults. My own therapy had continued as well, transitioning from the group sessions to individual work with Dr. Patel, who specialized in breaking generational patterns of dysfunction. Through our sessions, I had begun to recognize how my upbringing had shaped my tendency to overextend myself, to accept less than I deserved, to prioritize others' needs at the expense of my own. "You're breaking the cycle," Dr. Patel reminded me often. "That's powerful not just for you, but for Lily too. You're showing her what healthy boundaries look like, what self-respect looks like." The process wasn't always smooth. There were still difficult days, holidays that triggered memories, milestones that felt bittersweet without extended family to share them, practical challenges that would have been easier with more support. The grief of family estrangement would sometimes catch me off guard. A photograph in an old album, a song that reminded me of childhood, a passing comment from Lily about her cousins. But the difficult days became less frequent, less intense. We were building something new, something healthier, and the evidence was in Lily's growing confidence, her genuine laughter, the ease in her shoulders that had once been perpetually tense with anxiety. As Lily's 11th birthday approached, I felt a familiar knot of anxiety forming. Would the day trigger painful memories of last year's disaster? Would she miss her grandparents and extended family? I broached the subject carefully one evening as we washed dishes together. "Your birthday is coming up in a few weeks," I began. "I was wondering what kind of celebration you'd like this year." Lily considered the question while carefully drying a glass. "I don't want a big party like last year," she said finally. "Maybe just something small? With Rachel's family and Denise and Maya?" "That sounds perfect," I said, relieved by her practical approach. "Any special theme or activities you'd like?" She paused, considering. "I think I'd like to do something at the aquarium, since I've been learning about ocean conservation. And maybe afterward we could have cake at home? Nothing fancy." The simplicity of her request squeezed my heart. She had learned, perhaps too young, to modify her expectations to avoid disappointment. But there was also wisdom in her choice, focusing on quality connections rather than quantity, on experiences rather than elaborate productions. "The aquarium sounds wonderful," I assured her, "and we'll have your favorite chocolate cake with raspberry filling. It will be special, just in a different way." On the morning of Lily's 11th birthday, I decorated our kitchen with ocean-themed decorations, paper fish hanging from the ceiling, a happy birthday banner with seahorses, blue and green streamers creating an underwater effect. Nothing elaborate, but thoughtful and personal. The day unfolded just as Lily had requested. A guided tour of the aquarium with our small group of friends, followed by a casual dinner and cake at home. Throughout the day, I watched her closely, looking for signs of sadness or longing for the bigger family celebrations of the past. Instead, I saw genuine enjoyment, laughter, and the relaxed demeanor of a child who felt secure and valued. As Rachel and her family were leaving that evening, Lily hugged her tightly and said, "This was the best birthday ever. I like having people who actually show up." The simple statement, delivered without drama or self-pity, confirmed what I had been hoping, that Lily was healing, that she understood the difference between obligation and genuine connection. Later, as I tucked her into bed, she surprised me with a question. "Mom, do you think Grandma and Grandpa ever think about us?" I sat on the edge of her bed, considering how to answer honestly without burdening her with adult complexities. "I think they probably do," I said carefully. But people are complicated, sweetheart. Sometimes they can miss someone but still not be able to change the behaviors that caused the separation in the first place. She nodded thoughtfully. Like when Charlie in my class said he was sorry for taking my pencil case, but then did it again the next day. I smiled at her perfect analogy. Exactly like that. Saying sorry isn't enough if the behavior doesn't change. I used to be really sad about them not coming to my party last year, she confessed. But now I'm kind of glad, in a way. Glad? I asked, surprised. Because if they had come, maybe we would still be around them, and they would still make you sad all the time. Her perception took my breath away. And I like our life better now. You smile more. I wrapped her in a tight hug, amazed by her insight and emotional intelligence. I like our life better now, too, I whispered, realizing with some surprise that it was absolutely true. The months continued to pass, each bringing new growth and healing. My promotion at work to project coordinator came with a modest but significant raise that allowed us to set aside a small emergency fund for the first time in years. The financial independence was liberating, knowing we could handle unexpected expenses without having to consider whether asking family for help was worth the inevitable strings attached. We moved to the new apartment, closer to Lily's school and in a neighborhood with better resources. It was still modest by most standards, but it was ours. A safe, peaceful space, free from the ghosts of past confrontations. Lily continued to flourish in school, particularly in science and creative writing. Her teacher recommended her for a special summer program at the local community college for gifted middle schoolers, and she was accepted with a partial scholarship. I covered the remaining cost with money I had been saving from my new position, the kind of investment in her future that brought only joy, not financial stress. The expansion of our chosen family continued in unexpected ways. My elderly neighbor, Mrs. Chen, began watching Lily occasionally after school when my work schedule required it, teaching her to make dumplings and telling stories of her childhood in Taiwan. Lily's science teacher, Mr. Washington, became a mentor, lending her books from his personal collection and encouraging her budding interest in marine conservation. Even my relationship with James, Kimberly's husband, evolved carefully through occasional emails checked by my lawyer to ensure they didn't violate the restraining order. He sent birthday and Christmas cards to Lily, never pushing for more contact than we were comfortable with, simply maintaining a gentle connection. He was the one family member who had acknowledged the wrongness of what had happened and respected our boundaries since. 1 year and 2 months after the final court hearing, I received an unexpected letter, not from my parents or siblings, but from my Aunt Linda, my mother's sister. We had been close when I was younger, but she had moved across the country years ago, and our contact had become limited to holiday cards and occasional phone calls. The letter was long and thoughtful, explaining that she had recently visited my parents and been troubled by their version of events and their inability to see their role in what had happened. She had done some investigating, talking to mutual acquaintances and extended family who had witnessed parts of the conflict. "I believe you did what you had to do," she wrote. "Family loyalty is important, but not at the expense of your child's emotional well-being. I'm sorry I wasn't there to support you through this difficult time. If you're open to it, I would love to be part of your and Lily's life again, on whatever terms feel comfortable and safe for you both." The letter brought tears, not of grief this time, but of validation and hope. I shared it with Dr. Patel in our next session, unsure how to respond. "What are your concerns about reconnecting?" she asked gently. "I'm worried about opening doors that might lead back to my parents and siblings," I admitted. "I'm worried about disrupting the peace we've found." "Those are valid concerns," she acknowledged. "But connections with supportive extended family can also be healing. The key is maintaining your boundaries. You get to decide the terms of any relationship in your life now." After careful consideration and several conversations with Lily, I responded to Aunt Linda, suggesting we start with video calls before considering an in-person visit. Our first conversation was slightly awkward but warm, with Lily initially shy but gradually opening up as Linda asked thoughtful questions about her interests and school. Over the following months, our connection with Linda grew stronger. She never pushed for reconciliation with my parents, never questioned the validity of our boundaries, simply offered the unconditional support that had been so lacking from my immediate family. In our most recent video call, she mentioned she was planning a trip to our area in the summer and would love to visit if we were comfortable. Lily immediately said yes, her face lighting up with excitement. The ease of her response, free from anxiety or wariness, told me how far we had come. As I reflect now on the journey of the past 18 months, from the devastation of Lily's birthday party to the rebuilding of our lives on healthier terms, I am struck by how much we have both changed and grown. The lessons have been difficult but invaluable. That saying no to exploitation isn't selfish. It's necessary self-care and modeling healthy boundaries for my child. That family is defined by actions and respect, not just shared DNA. That peace sometimes comes at the high but worthwhile price of walking away from toxic relationships. That children are remarkably resilient when provided with honesty, consistency, and genuine love. That chosen family can fulfill emotional needs that biological family refuses to meet. Most importantly, that breaking generational patterns of dysfunction, while painful and difficult, creates the possibility for a healthier future, not just for ourselves, but for generations to come. As I finish typing this reflection, I hear Lily's footsteps in the hallway. She bounds into the room, cheeks flushed from her after-school science club meeting. "Mom, Mr. Washington says my ocean conservation project might qualify for the regional science fair. Can you help me work on it this weekend?" "Absolutely," I say, smiling at her enthusiasm. She throws her arms around me in a spontaneous hug, then bounces off to get a snack. In this simple moment, my daughter excited about her future, secure in the knowledge that she is supported and valued. I find confirmation that the difficult choices were the right ones. We have found our way to joy, not despite the family we lost, but because we had the courage to choose a different path. If you're facing similar challenges with family relationships that have become toxic, I remember that establishing boundaries isn't selfish. It's sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself and your children. Have you ever had to make difficult choices to protect your family's emotional well-being? Share your experiences in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video if it resonated with you. Subscribe for more content on navigating family dynamics, and share with someone who might need to hear that it's okay to choose peace over toxic connections. Thank you for listening to our story. And remember, family is about love, respect, and showing up when it matters most.